Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this iteration of the PackerBackers News Podcast with Ken and Ken in the morning.
Hey, and we just popped up on my YouTube notifications. Good
Yeah,
morning, gentlemen. Good morning. So, hey, we had a plan for today. Ken and I did. Because we always be back there scheming and doing, what could we do to mess with the fellas today after we messed with you for 2 days talking about expansion, which was carried over to the back room, the back room chat. So hopefully people out there, you guys were, discussing like we were. We had some good arguments back there on it, but we had a whole plan today to talk about the NFL hard knocks policy. And boom, once you know it, the Chicago Bears went and did some stuff. Actually, I got two things. The first piece of news for this morning, everyone, hope, pray for Mongo. Mongo went to the hospital today. He was admitted into the hospital in Chicago. They think it's pneumonia. But hopefully Mongo's okay. I mean, the guy's battling, man. He is not giving up with this fight.
Yeah.
But he was sent to the hospital this morning with possible pneumonia. So let's hope he pulls through. He just got, at least he knows he's going to the Hall of Fame. But I'd like to see him. He won't be at the induction ceremony, but I'd like to be able, have him see himself.
Hasn't he been in hospice for like a while now?
He's been at home care.
Care.
It's been like that for over a year now. He gets plenty of visits from teammates. Oh, hey, good morning, Facebook user. Still haven't figured out how to be a Facebook. Anywho, so that was the first piece. The second piece, and there's two parts to that, and one part may affect the Packers possibly. But the first thing, the Bears cut Cody Whitehair. Cody Whitehair was a Bear from draft, 8 years with Chicago. He was the utility man. He was an all-pro center for a season, but you needed a right guard, he was a right guard. You needed a left guard, he was a left guard. You needed a tackle, he was a tackle. He moved all over that line, somehow finally fell out of favor with the coaching staff last year. That cut saved, I believe, like almost $8 million. In total, the Bears saved about $21 million yesterday in salary cap, making us now the fourth highest in the league at over $60 million. The big cut, of course, where the big money came from was Bojack. Eddie Jackson, the ball hawk, no longer a Bear. Every Bear fan, well, not every Bear fan, but a lot of Bear fans called for it, wanted him to be cut this year. The last couple of years, his production went down. Last year, it was felt a couple big instances in games where people were legit, hey, that's Eddie Jackson, just cost us the game because he blew X coverage, or instead of tackling, he just tried to shove a guy. But, Ken, I hear through the grapevine that the Packers want to sign Mr. Eddie Jackson.
Now, we haven't heard from the Packers themselves that they do, even the rumor mill, but there are a couple news articles and fans clamoring for Green Bay to sign him. Now, I know personally, I don't want him with how old he is and what he put on the field last year. I know we need a safety, but not that safety. He's already shown what his limitations are in the league, and he's just going downhill, at least in my opinion. Now, Isaac, what's your opinion on the whole Eddie Jackson to Green Bay?
You brought a good point about the age thing. As you know, Green Bay roster is going younger and younger. So, aging, vets like that, we're not really looking at. We're looking at guys probably, mid-age, somewhere around there or younger or going through the draft. Now, I know Green Bay doesn't have basically a safety on the roster other than a four-string safety because we didn't re-sign Jonathan Owens yet. We didn't re-sign Savage. We didn't re-sign excuse me. We didn't, re-sign Savage. We didn't re-sign who else was on our fucking roster last year? Well, but anyways, Eddie Jackson, he's more like Ha Clinton Dix to me. Where he's that ball hawk, but he's like he can't hit anymore. You know what I mean? Doesn't maybe be afraid of contact? Who knows? We don't need those type of guys on our team. So, It's just a safety that became available that Packer fans have talked about because we don't have a safety basically signed on our roster other than a 4-stringer. So, by the way the Packers are going, we're just going with youth.
Yeah.
Isaac, it's funny, and the Bears are doing the same thing. Like Poles is, when he signs free agents, if you're 27, you're too old, pretty much, right? If Poles wants it, and the Packers are kind of in the same boat. I always think it's funny when fans, especially fans who know so much about everything, right? Like, oh yeah, we gotta sign this guy. He's 34 years old. Like, dude, do not follow what your GM does when he doesn't want to. Has he signed anyone, like with Poles? Has he signed anyone over the age of 27? No. So why is he going to go out and sign a 32-year-old for a long-term $20 million a year deal now? It's not what he do. I love when fans, Eddie Jackson, for you guys, I think he became expendable in Chicago for 2 reasons. One, the massive contract, right? That's number one. If you take the massive contract away, do the Bears cut him? Probably still yes, because we're actually somewhat young, deep, and talented in the secondary. But at like 3 or 4 mil, and I think his Spotrac actually is between 1.5. It was yesterday. Now it's probably at 3 mil because the Bears cut him. Who knows? But let's say you signed Eddie Jackson for $3 million a year. He's still a good veteran presence to put in a locker room when you don't have anything else, or even if you have something else, he's a good rotational piece probably. And Dominic, what do you think? I mean, that could probably come to you because you guys are in a little situation with the safety at the safety position too, right?
Yeah, we drafted Richie Grant a few years ago, and what was he? Second round? Yeah, second round pickup, and he's shown flashes of being a superstar. But this year, near the end of the season, he's started to trickle down and everything. So we put Helms up, DeMarco Helms, in his position. We started him for Richie. So Eddie, I'm not really a fan of him. Everybody knows that he's lost his mojo.
His mojo. There you go.
Right there. That's a good word.
Like Facebook user says, he's old and slow now.
Yeah, 32. Come on, man. Like.
Okay, Facebook user, learn how to use this so we know who you are. I'm going to stop posting Facebook user comments because, give us your name. If you're going to say something, let us know, stand up. If you're going to make a comment, right, like some of the comments you make, put your name to it or don't make the comment. I hate to say it that way, but I'm going to stop putting you on the screen. I mean, it's not hard to, when you log on, to just get your name in there. So I'm sorry, Dominic. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But Eddie Jackson, I'm not a fan of him. So they can probably build on the rookie they drafted last year, Helms, if I'm saying his name correctly. But I don't know. He's too old, 32. And you can see his regression. You can see that regression started hitting a few years ago, if you want to be real. It really did. So
I mean, he could be a guy who's just out of the league. That happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
We see, it's not. I mean, we're talking like Des Bryant, right? Des Bryant one day gets cut from the Cowboys as a cap casualty.
Mm-hmm.
Never played again.
Yeah, that's right? So true. 32 is that age too. Usually, like in your 30s, you got to start preparing yourself to be cut, traded, become a coach or something. Like you're at that age where you're, as you said, expendable.
Cody Whitehair, I don't know, if you now, Ken, if you guys cut Bakhtiari, and I don't know I know you've got a guy already that you like to be the every down because he basically was the every down guy.
Yeah, Rasheed Walker played outstanding.
But would Cody Whitehair, who you could probably sign relatively cheap, I think like Cody Whitehair for the Bears, same kind of thing. Like if Cody Whitehair's contract wasn't 12 million. I think if he was like around the 4 million, 3 or 4 million, I think he still has a job because he's a solid lineman, has been solid. He's been an 8-year starter. Even last year, I think just him and Eberflus fell out or whatever. But
I was going to say he makes more sense for you guys to bring back or something like that. But there's no way I want him on Green Bay with the way we draft and develop offensive linemen. I would much rather go into the draft and pick up a swing tackle plus an extra guard, and that would be more than enough in my eyes. Because they've shown we damn near grow these guys out in the field in the back. So I'm not too worried about going out and signing a free agent lineman.
Whitehair is going to get a gig. I think between the two, Whitehair will get a gig because he's a very serviceable lineman. I don't think he'll be a starter anywhere he goes. He'll be more of that rotational emergency guy you've got on your bench. You can be a starter if you got a guy go down. So he's going to be worth the $3 or $4 million some team is going to spend on him. I just unfortunately sometimes guys. I mean, he's great. I mean, the city of Chicago owes him for his service. He did a good job in Chicago overall. I mean, he did whatever you asked, and you got to, and that's even if you say, well, yeah, but I didn't like his play when he was the right tackle versus the left tackle versus when he was a center versus when he was the guard. The point that you can complain about him like that when he's played every position on the line and his willingness to play wherever you need him, that's a commodity that's undervalued in the NFL, especially when you're talking line guys.
Oh yeah, that's like people for the Packers will complain about when Jenkins plays at a different position besides either the left guard or center, which I don't know. Yeah, was he not as good filling in at left tackle as Bakhtiari was? Obviously, but the man can play everywhere on the freaking line. Granted, his best position is inside, but he can move all up and down in any type of emergency scenario, which would make me not want to sign a free agent even more.
So I mean that's Cody's gonna get a job. Maybe it'll be Atlanta could possibly use. I know they've got some line issues. There's a lot of teams that have line issues, but it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But what's on Eddie Jackson? Maybe he's done. Yeah,
I could see it.
I can see it too. I mean, he's been in the league a long time, like 7 years in Chicago, right? 7 or 8. Yeah. That's career itself right there.
Good career, and he made a lot of money. So so the Bears were the first to swing the axe. Ken, when do you think Bakhtiari gets cut?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say it's probably gonna be somewhere right around the draft is when he gets cut. Because I still think that they're going to try to move him to try to find some type of trade partner. Granted, his market's going to be really low because everybody's going to know that we want to cut him. But if there are multiple teams bidding for him, I could see somebody throwing us a 7th, 6th rounder for him.
Well, Dom, I mean, Bakhtiari, he's available. You need line help. But he's got a $20 million price tag, by the way, too. Are you giving them even a 7th rounder for Bakhtiari? If you covered him?
No, we just got out of that dead cap space. And we're actually feeling pretty good right now with the team we're building. You heard Terry. I don't know if you watched, but Terry came out and said something about alluding to a QB and everything. So we're in the market for a QB. If he drops to free agency, I can see the Falcons picking him up. He's good. But we don't want to go back and no dead. Not with what's his name, Mike Smith and Arthur Smith. Nah, I can't.
If you sign him, hold on one sec.
Yeah.
If you sign him, are you worried about his knee? That's been an issue with us for years now.
We have good.
He supposedly had surgery. That this was the one that fixed it. That they figured out what the problem was. But I don't want to take that gamble.
I say swap him out for Caleb McGrady. I don't like him. To be honest, he duped us into a contract. He really duped us.
Actually, Ken, I read something about the surgery too. Like they did the one surgery, there was still a nagging issue. This is the one that supposedly cleaned out and fixed it. You know what though? Will a team take it? Because Isaac, I'm sure, will agree with this. When Bakhtiari's in, he's really good. If this is the surgery, I think let's say Isaac, you're the GM of Team X that needs a lineman, right? I think wouldn't you be willing to take a chance on Bakhtiari, but maybe not trade for him with a $20 million contract? Like, wouldn't you much rather just wait for the Packers to cut him and then sign him on a $5 or $8 or $9 or $10 million prove it deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, that could be an avenue, but I see a lot of teams that, will offer, one of their 7th round, 6th round picks, try to get him because, as you said, he's a staple in the left tackle. And a lot of people don't have that solidified. Like, for instance, the Buccaneers just lost a couple of linemen. You know what I mean? One of them retired and another one is leaving the Buccaneers. So, there's definitely, jobs for him to have. So, and we see it in the NFL all the time, right? Like a really high priced salary guy that has little injury history, but if he's healthy, can be really a good staple on their team. Offer some picks to get that said player. So I think what Packers are doing, and then Ken, the Packer fan, and I alluded to this in the back chat type of thing, is that it's a possibility that Packers are just kicking the tires to see what they can get out of them. And then if there's nothing that comes to fruition, then cutting them would be our next best option, because then we save $20 million on the cap.
Well, see that's why I think you guys won't find a trade partner at all, because the problem is, for me and probably every GM out there, is this: he comes with a $20 million price tag for a 7th rounder. And like, okay, if I'm the Jets, I know the Jets are popular for him because, that's where his buddy Aaron is at. Okay, that's great, but the Jets don't have the $20 million to spend on him. Like, he is not in their budget at $20 million. Could he be in their budget at 5? So maybe if the Packers are willing to eat contract, but right now you guys are a shade under $3 million negative cap. If you cut Bakhtiari, you actually now come to $18 million under the cap. Right now you have money. But if you trade him to the Jets for a 7th rounder, but the Jets say, look, we'll give you a 7th rounder for him, so you'll get a pick. But, dude, you got to eat $15 million of that contract. Well, now you're still $13 million over the cap. So, I mean, that's a problem with Bakhtiari, is going to be, a team that has money like the Bears, we're not going to trade you for him.
No.
Right? Or one of these other.
I wouldn't want him going over to Chicago anyway.
But I mean,
I don't think.
I use them as an example because they got $60 million in cap. I mean, unless you're a team that has nothing and you've got a shit ton of cap money, an absorbent amount of cap money, why am I going to give you a 7th rounder and pay $20 million to a guy who played 1 game last year and has a history of knee problems?
Yeah, I think the Bears are over getting like a lineman from us because they don't really pan out.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, I just used the Bears as an example because I know their cap. We have $60 million in space, and they're the 6th. So there are 5 teams that have more cap space than the Bears do right now. But I just used them as an example because, like, what team is going to pay $20 million on a guy who missed basically the whole last season on a knee issue, has missed time the last 2 or 3 seasons with knee issues? Sure, when he's in, he's phenomenal, but he hasn't been in consistently for 3-4 years, and you're paying him $20 million.
Yeah, it's a familiar story with us with Mike Daniels. Mike Daniels was the same thing. He was a really good player for us, but he couldn't get away from this knee injury, and it just, at the end of the day, we had to cut him, and he went to the Lions. I think it's the same situation. Same situation with him. So, I mean, there's nothing we can do. Nothing we can do really with Bach. It just what he could have had leverage if Rasheed Walker didn't emerge in our offensive line. He could have had some sort of leverage if that didn't.
And I think you just answered. Yeah, I was going to post it as a huge comment, but Isaac, you just answered that comment. What are they going to do? Well, I think you just answered that, and then they probably draft. Because you're always drafting line. They'll draft another one to back him up, or pull him from the lineman field you got behind. You're building your headquarters there, where you kind of just grow linemen. So I mean, Bakhtiari. I mean, is Facebook user once again asked, and I'll actually read this question because it's actually a good question. Is Bakhtiari old enough to retire? And the answer to that is there's no age limit on retiring. You can retire after being in the league 1 year. I mean, the guys who do that are usually guys who well, I'm just going to retire. Now you got cut. But, he can retire anytime he wants.
I could see him retiring if nobody wanted him, but I don't see that happening.
That's not,
even with his injury history, just from what he showed against the Bears, the one game that he played, I think that's going to make people want to roll the dice on him.
Well,
Well,
I
he got
think that here's the
commodities,
thing
too.
too. He can. Okay, so the deal with like, can he retire? He can if he wants to fuck over the Packers. He definitely can. If he says, you know what, fuck Green Bay, Chicago's right. You guys are assholes. I hate you. Fuck you. I'm retiring. Eat my cap. Eat my salary, bitches. And he can do that, right? And okay, so now they're on the hook. They can't cut them. They're still on the hook. Whatever. I mean, actually, they'll still save cap space, but now they get nothing. He could do that, but come on, let's face it. He's not going to do that. Why? Because the dude wants to play and make more money. So, all these guys want to play and make more money. The only reason they retire is usually because they physically just, like Urlacher, when he retired, the Bears offered him $2 million. He said, make it 3, and that's how cheap we were back then. Make it 3 because that's what I need for my body to do this. Urlacher ends up retiring because why? The pain every day, the body. Jason Kelsey, why is he talking about, well, now he's talking about unretiring, but why is he talking about retiring in Philly? Because the pain his body goes through, the amount of work he has to do to be game ready. That's why a lot of these older guys retire. It's not just
Well, with him, don't forget the massive tank job that the Eagles pulled last year. I think that kind of weighed on him heavily at the end of the season too.
what to retire or not retire.
To retire of.
Oh no, he's been talking about retiring for the last 3 years.
Oh, okay. See,
so-
I don't pay enough attention to him to know that he's been questioning that.
Yeah.
So Robert says though that Bakhtiari is going to get a settlement with Green Bay and go play for the Jets. Look, I'm sure he wants to go to the Jets because his buddy is there. I get that. I think though, if you're the Jets though, like, why would you make the trade with? Do you maybe make a trade for a 7th round pick and each contract because you feel you owe the Packers because you screwed them over with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt? No, they don't care about that.
I want to put feelings into it. I'd be like, you guys just got a bad knee. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, wait, not a bad knee. It's Achilles, but
Yeah.
Hey, we fleeced the Jets for that one with Rodgers getting hurt, and if we could get him for Bakhtiari, that'd be twice as good. But I see it being, we cut him and they just swoop in and sign him because that's if I had to bet money, that's where I'm saying he's going.
So I'll say this. I'll bet I would put dollars to donuts. There's an old saying for you. I'd put dollars to donuts that Bakhtiari
It just got more gray.
cut. Yeah, thank you. I would say that Bakhtiari's cut no later than tag designation day. I don't think he's on that roster for another full week or about a week. Because look they're kicking the tires, but they're going to know pretty quickly. When you call the Jets and they dude, I mean, I know you're in Wisconsin and there's a lot of fields for meth labs, but no, I mean, when they hear that enough, it doesn't take long to hear that because they know the market. Teams that need them is a list like that, right? It's not like it's a whole league. So they go through that call list in a day, and if all of them are like, yeah, meth is too cheap out there, then they already know, okay, we got it. We're not, these guys aren't going to make a trade. Now, if they get one or two guys, well, let me think about it for a minute, well, why don't you think of what you could do to make me want to trade, or maybe give them a door, then okay, maybe it takes more than a week, but I really don't think anyone's going to pay him $20 million when he played one game last year. Like I want to sign for 5 or 10 max.
Yeah, you got to show your worth after not playing all season.
Yeah,
you got to prove. You got to what's it called? Prove it. Like
the thing is, was kind of like an enigma with Bach because when he's healthy, you see how great he is. Like he really doesn't allow any pressures, any sacks, and there's teams that are willing to take the risk for that because a lot of their O lines, their quarterback is getting beat up. Like for instance, look at the Giants. They signed Daniel Jones to this huge contract, which is I think they should have done, but that's my opinion. But they need somebody on that line to protect Daniel Jones. That guy was sacked more than Jay Cutler. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that whole season, and that's why he got injured. Sorry, that's a little side shot to you, Ken. But what's called? But yeah, that he was just getting sacked after play after play after play. They need somebody like that. So I think a team, if they're desperate enough, I mean, you bring up a good point, Ken. We can just, Ken, the Bear fan, that they can just wait till he gets cut. But then you have to sometimes be a team that wants to be proactive, because you never know if Bach wants to sign with your team. If he gets other offers. So
I
that's
guess let's flip the script here. Let's say the Packers just trade a 7th rounder for a guy like Bakhtiari. Would you be like, what the hell are you doing, guys? We're paying a guy like $20 million for a guy who didn't play at all last year.
I was going to say that's
the outrage would be phenomenal.
That to me is a bad comparison, just because it goes against our philosophy of what we're doing, of bringing in an old guy.
Ken, for sake of argument, who gives a shit about that? To be honest, for sake of argument, put yourself I'll use the Packers. The Packers. Let's say you get a 21-year-old or 22-year-old with a $20 million cap hit who didn't play at all last year, and you just trade a 7th rounder for a guy who didn't play at all last year, who's at his 3 years in the league, has been nothing but injuries, and now you see what I'm saying. I mean, the point being is,
I was going to say I'd be fine with it as a roll the dice. If we only gave $20 million, sometimes you got to pay a premium if you're hoping to get the premium.
We're arguing. Bears fans are arguing about, do the Bears, if he's available, sign Chase Young, right? And then if you sign Chase Young, what do you pay him? I think if the Bears were to sign Chase Young at $20 million, there are a lot of pissed off Bears fans right now at point of impact, because they're like, $20 million for a guy who's had, like Bakhtiari, but missed less time, knee injuries, right? The guy's a game wrecker when healthy. We know that Chase Young's a game wrecker when healthy, but $20 million, the guy, had all these ACL issues. There's so many other options. I think any team that were to give a draft pick and then take a $20 million cap hit on them, their fan base is going to be like, dude.
Well, no matter what you do, you're going to have the fan base bet you about some end of that.
Yeah, but I think it's justifiable at $20 million versus free agent signing for 5 or 10.
And Ken, the Packer fan, brings up a good point. We have to pay a premium anyway, so like we get players to come to Green Bay, right? Because they ain't trying to play in the snow when they can go play in the sunny side of some. They could go play in California. They could go play in Florida. They could play in Texas where they don't have to pay no taxes. You know what I mean? Like these players have options to live where they want to live. You know what I mean? And we have to pay a little bit more on the dollar to get players to come to play in Green Bay in the cold, So
Isaac, what do you think about John's comment about Bakhtiari restructuring his contract with incentives?
No, I'm good on that. I mean, I think we really found his replacement. As much as I love Bakhtiari, I love everything that he did, and his comments about not playing on certain fields like turf, because it causes. I mean, it did cause injuries, like the Giant Stadium. You know what I mean? It did cause injuries to different players, but I just think the writing's on the wall for Bakhtiari. We're trying to move on. We're going younger, and Bakhtiari I think he sees the writing on the wall too, that we're all going younger, and we found his replacement.
And John, I like the comment, because I had a similar idea, with the Bears. Okay, they could just do the same thing with Whitehair, right? Take him down, do a restructured deal with a lot of incentives where you cap hit, you save the cap money, but you keep him there as a good, as a good rotational guy, which he would be a very good rotational guy wherever Cody Whitehair does. But they still ended up cutting. I think with Bakhtiari, it's kind of hard sometimes with these guys, because if you keep him on the roster, a lot of fans are going to be clamoring, why is Bakhtiari not playing if he's not starting? I like the idea, John. I'm with you in heart, but I think in practicality, most GMs kind of shy away from that, because they all, because look at this, Bakhtiari's doing it because he knows he's going to be a cap catcher, right?
Yeah.
So
because who knows? He may play a couple games and go back to being injured. You know what I mean? And you lose him for the season again, and then Packer fans like, man, why didn't we just cut him and get that $20 million?
And that same argument, though, Isaac's why I think it's going to be hard, though, for a team to want to give up a 7th round pick to pay the guy $20 million because he might be good for the first 3 or 4 games and he's out with the knee, and now that GM's like, well, I might have just lost my job.
I mean, we went to a similar situation with Brian Bulaga. We didn't owe him as much as we did Bulaga, but we went through the same situation where, the knee issue, or I think it was actually more the ankle, knee area about Bulaga. And we could have signed him back. I mean, he played really good for us in 2016. It was part of that big run that we made, but we just came to the conclusion, hey, we don't want this guy to be injured on our roster. And then he went and played for the Chargers the next season. So I think the writing's on the wall for Bakhtiari is make that cut, and we need that money.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not like we're not used to cutting these high-profile linemen.
Right.
Like how we got rid of both of our starting guards in back-to-back years when we got rid of Sitton and TJ Lane.
Exactly.
And that came completely out of left field. So it's not like there isn't precedence to do this.
I don't know, John, if Bakhtiari has him by the look, if they cut him, he's still got $20 million in funds coming his way from his contract. But the Packers saved $20 million in cap hit. So I don't know if he really has them by the balls. Like, basically, if the Packers cut him, John, the Packers are helping themselves cap-wise because right now you're $3 million in the red. Now, but now you're $18 million in the black if you cut him. Cause it's like, it's like 20.89 or whatever. And it's, but you're at like 17, 18 million in the black if you cut Bakhtiari. So I don't know how you call that having a team by the balls.
The only part that I'd agree with Dorn on this one is if he is still injured and can't pass a physical, that gives him the injury designation to where we got to. Yeah, well, he's got the injury designation for it, he can go for an injury settlement, and he gets a good majority of his contract for it, and all of that comes off in 1 year.
Yeah, but does that count against the cap though at that point?
Yep, it does.
Yeah, and either way, like as soon as we signed that extension, we knew we were going to owe Bach a bunch of money, either whatever decision that we make. But that $20 million save on the cap is really going to help us. So that's why I think we're going to go that route. But we're just doing our due diligence right now, kicking the tires, see what we can get for him before that happens. And then we see it all the time with players, like teams hold on to a player just for a little bit longer to see if the team will bite. And then if not, boom, they're cut by this certain day.
And Joe, to answer your question, if the other team did not demand that the Packers eat some contract, I don't believe you would have any dead cap, right? However, because his cap hits like 20 mil this year, and if you cut him, you get 100% of it back. So the way his deal was structured, he's owed $47 million, but his cap hits like 20, right? So the cap hit would come like, let's say your trade partner is Seattle, and Seattle says, yeah, we'll give you a 7th rounder, but you're going to eat 15 mil of this contract. Well, then you'd have a 15 million in dead cap for him this year. And then Robert says, hey, there's no one's going to trade for Bach. And I agree with Robert on this one. I don't think anyone's going to trade for Bach at all. I think they're going to wait and see. And like what you said, like the Packers have to wait and see, like, well, wait, if we cut him, because he's coming off an injury, right, or he missed the season, he can go for a settlement. So it puts you guys in a precarious.
Yeah, it's just age too. Yeah, his age as well. I mean, if he was a little bit younger, we'll have more suitors for him. But like because of his age and what his injury is, like for the knees, you don't want an aging, knees broken type of lineman on your roster that could possibly play a game or two and then be sitting right next to you in street clothes,
So Dominic, do you think maybe the Packers haven't cut Bakhtiari at this point because they have a feeling they're not going to get a favorable decision if Bakhtiari were to file a medical claim?
Oh no, yeah, that's probably why the Packers didn't cut him. You don't want that coming up on you. As an organization and everything. That means okay, they weren't looking out for me. What team would want to go to what person would want to go to a team who has a medical staff who,
Well, I mean,
I'm not gonna say good, but
Yeah, but Dominic, I think with Bakhtiari, everyone in the league would understand he's a cap casualty. They're not cutting him because he has the bad team.
That's too much money for one person.
But I mean, do you think like maybe the Packers haven't cut him because they go, if we cut him, he's going to file for it, and we're still be stuck paying the $20 million. So maybe he's in a Packer uniform next year, guys.
I don't know about that.
I don't think so.
I think if it comes to that, they're just going to cut him and eat that.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing, though, guys.
A few years ago, they ate all that cap space.
So right now, okay, so let's say you guys say, okay, even with that, Bach, we're going to eat the $20 million and you're gone, right? So you're still $3 million over the cap. So you have to work some magic with restructures, right, for this year. Next year you got like $100 million right now, for the cap. But this year you're screwed. And you cut him and you give him the severance of $20 million, and now he can go sign with whoever, and he doesn't care where he signs because he just got $47 million for the year. How does that help the Packers? I mean, if you're in that situation, if you're going to pay him the $20 million, why not just keep him and maybe get something out of him?
That's the thing. I don't think we're going to get anything out of him. So, we just cut him and get that $20 million and use it, to possibly sign a game changer for us. And then, it's just the age thing too. You see how Packers, they're going with the youth movement. And Rasheed Walker's shown that he can replace Bach, for the foreseeable future. So really the leverage that Bach staying with Green Bay is pretty non-existent right now because Rasheed Walker really stepped up to be our left tackle. So we really don't have a space for Bakhtiari to come back to. So it's the only thing that I can see is, we're just doing our due diligence, kicking the tires for a little bit, seeing if there's any, suitors, throwing the bait out there. The bait's not nibbling, cut it. I mean,
yeah, because right now you've got a $20 million cheerleader. That's what Bakhtiari is right now. He's a $20 million cheerleader.
Yeah. He's a cash cow that we're looking at, right? And then we can, throw in that ticket, get that $20 million. That helps us out, right?
I would tend to think, though, guys, like if Bach isn't traded or cut by the first deadline, I think if he's not cut by tag deadline, I don't think they're cut. If he's not traded by the draft, he's wearing Packer green and gold next year.
I don't see that happening. I don't see him being back on the team. As much as Green Bay, tries to keep as much, players around, because they want to fucking, keep that old school traditional culture. But we've seen now veteran players getting cut or traded, a la Aaron Rodgers, and Cobb. Guys that have been Green Bay favorites are no longer on the team because Green Bay is just starting this new transition, going with the youth movement, not really going for aging players. And, a lot of these players that on our team right now, if you're an aging player on our team, you kind of fear for your job a little bit because you see what the Packers are doing. They're going with the youth. And I see Bach is that one of those guys that's going to be a casualty to that.
I think Cody might be onto something with the way you do a restructure, though. Like, you restructure for a year, add a lot of bonuses and void years. But I don't think because then he goes, and then get a comp pick after you go to the Jets. And because Joe says, hey, have you called the Jets? Well, the Jets right now obviously can't do it because they're in a little bit of cap hell too. But if you do a contract with void years and you void them out, and then he goes to the Jets, you don't get a comp pick.
Hey, okay, Joe, we don't even have to call the Jets. Jets are calling us because Aaron Rodgers is the GM over
there. Aaron Rodgers been calling up the freaking Jets owner there every morning.
All right.
So, this
he's like, man, this guy was at my wedding, you know what I mean? So can you
So, this box situation is obviously something we'll have to keep an eye on for the next couple of weeks for the Packers, because that's probably the one big – if you were going to make a roster move based off the balance sheet, if you will, the budget, I think he would be the guy you're cutting. He's your cap casualty. The Bears took care of 2 of their 3. The other cap casualty you could have for the Bears is Velus Jones, who's like 1.2 mil in cap savings. So, yeah, I don't think he's in danger of being a cap casualty right now in Chicago. But he is probably one of the only other guys we could probably cut for that purpose and get away with. For you guys, it seems to be Bakhtiari. Because look at the other guys that you have significant contracts on are guys you want to keep, right? So the other guys
Campbell,
are.
I'd say, is iffy. You
Yeah,
got
you've got
some people that want
Yeah.
Campbell back, and
But I mean, those are the a lot of those guys are the $1 million guys, $2 million guys.
Campbell's got a
what-
nice hip.
what's Campbell's contract right now? I don't think I saw that in the top 5 contracts you guys have
Oh,
right now.
it's up there.
I mean, if he's $5-6 million a year, he could be, I guess. If he's $5-6 million plus, he could be. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Packers, though, as far as obviously there's going to be something. We all know, all of us sitting here know something's got to happen because you're $3 million over. So
Can you guys bring back?
restructuring, cuts.
Can you guys bring back Nick's comment? I wanted to read that.
The big one.
Yeah. Decides to be healthy and plays for Green Bay actually gives us 4 years, and I'm confident it'll help us in a huge way. Bach with this young O-line is nothing short of a positive. I mean, that's true, but I mean, the way our situation is with our cap room, it looks like more Bach is going to be cut than kept on the team, because we get that 20 million, we can help get some pieces for this team. And then Goot is not a stranger to looking at FAs. But he's looking at young FAs. I see Packer fans clamoring about Micah Hyde. As much as I like Micah Hyde, he's not the Micah Hyde that we once knew. That hybrid, type of guy that's really got a great motor and doesn't quit on a play. He's not that guy anymore. He's like 33, and he's been in and out of games. He's been injured. I don't see him coming. I mean, as much as Green Bay fans want Micah Hyde back. There was a time and a place to get Micah Hyde. It's not now.
So yeah, it looks like Joe and Cody are both on the if they cut anyone, it might be Campbell. The 5 or 6 million, and so look at this. That time of season, guys. Teams are making cuts. There are salary cuts that guys need to make. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on the Packer situation, especially with Bakhtiari, maybe Campbell, and then something else that's going to be talked about heavily, or a decision we made pretty quick will be this, as we'll transition topics for about the last 20 minutes or so. The Bears are one of 3 teams eligible for Hard Knocks because, we've sucked the last couple of years and we've avoided Hard Knocks with the plague. But let's talk about Hard Knocks for some, because there's 2 versions of Hard Knocks, right? You got Hard Knocks preseason, Hard Knocks in season. This affects basically the NFC North, every team in the NFC North this year, because while the Bears will probably more than likely be on the preseason, because when you look at the other teams, the Bears you got the whole Justin Caleb thing. You've got the free agents that there's going to be some free agents. You got a team that's trending up. You got all these reasons. I mean, Chicago's going to be good television for Hard Knocks, right? They've got so many storylines there. The Caskies, they can fight if they want. Sorry, Goodell's like, sorry, HBO's gets you for the preseason. I think the Packers, though, are a team, or the Lions, also in the division, are 2 teams that could also get picked up on Hard Knocks in season, which is also compulsory by the NFL. So what do you guys think about Hard Knocks in general? I mean, as a TV show, I watched it last year, both preseason and in season. As a fan, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Aaron go through the processes of becoming a Jet. I enjoyed watching Tua and the Dolphins make their playoff push, at the end of the year on Hard Knocks. But what do you guys feel about the NFL's compulsory Hard Knocks, and then the teams that could possibly from the division being on it?
Yeah, and to piggyback off of Nick's, it's very entertaining, and I enjoy watching it. But you hear a lot of teams complaining about how much of a disruption it can be to the process of it. And that's why the preseason Hard Knocks generally goes to teams that suck. Because, if they complain, they weren't going to have the best season to start with anyway, going off of what they're predicting. Versus the in-season one, where it's good teams that you now got to deal with this camera crew all throughout your facility through the season. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like it if they were on the Hard Knocks all season, but I would definitely watch it.
Well, the Lions did, Joe. The Lions, they went to Hard Knocks and then they made the playoffs. But one team I would like to see probably on Hard Knocks is the Chargers. Why not get Jim in there? That would be really entertaining.
That would be yeah.
New head coach and everything too.
And Ken, to clean up the comment a little bit, it's not that your team sucked necessarily, because when the Jets were on Hard Knocks, they came off of season where they just missed the playoffs by basically they had, like the Bears last season.
I should refrain.
You can be a team that for the last 3 years has been 9-8, 8-9, whatever, not gotten the playoffs. The only rule is you haven't gotten the playoff in the last 2 years.
I should rephrase that. It doesn't mean you're necessarily terrible, but you haven't been achieving things either.
Mm-mm.
So it'd be fun to see. As a fan, I think we all enjoy it because the insight we get into the locker room, into the game, into the coaching, into the management. That's why the show does well, right? HBO keeps making this show not because it doesn't make money.
Mm-hmm.
They get viewers,
You get an insight too on the teams.
And that's the stress.
The Chargers I don't think are eligible for Hard Knocks this year. I'll double check that in a second.
I mean,
Nick, does that mean you're referring to the 49ers?
Bang bang Niner gang. No, Chargers would be really fun to watch. I mean, Jim Harbaugh really getting a lot of buzz right now. A lot of people are just tuning in to the Chargers. And Chargers they're that team, right? They could be a team that could be over the cusp. They got a really good offense. I think they have a plan to sign back Eckler. And then, their defense has been really good. You know what I mean? They're that team that just can't get over anything. I mean, I know they have a pretty stern division, but with Jim Harbaugh, that team's going to be a little bit more fun to watch.
So with Hard Knocks, you can volunteer. I don't think anyone's ever volunteered, but you can volunteer to be on it. If no one volunteers, the NFL can force you. The three teams that are eligible this year, and tell me which one you think will be. I think it's going to be the Bears, of course, but the Bears, the Broncos, and the Saints are the three teams that qualify.
Oh, the Broncos could be very interesting.
They
with all the drama that they have going on with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just like with Harbaugh, tell me watching Sean Payton on Hard Knocks would not be entertaining as fuck.
Television.
He's a character. I mean, I really see the Bears making it because, it just they're that team that they had a little resurgence at the end of the season. And, they're a team that could be on the cusp of doing much better than they could, be going. So I think Bears could be really a candidate. But
the Broncos media seem to think that I love this. Now, this is from Broncos Wire. Broncos are likely a top contender for Hard Knocks in 2024. Now, this should tell you something about the Broncos or these guys who write articles. Dude, there's only 3 contenders. Of course, you're a top contender. There's only 3. You have a 33% chance you are a top contender. It's just funny.
Yeah. Broncos.
Here's one for you, Dom.
Sean Payton alone. Sean Payton is he's an entertaining.
Come on, Nick. That's like right in the gut. New head coach. I mean, we ain't got Arthur Smith no more. That guy was a bum. FedEx. He living off his daddy. That's all I can say. I don't know if you guys know his dad's a FedEx owner, like created FedEx. So
I'm trying to find out for the in season what the eligibility is.
And that one I haven't heard. It might just be what team that they think's going to be an entertaining, surprising team.
Dolphins.
Yeah, you might not. might find anything on that, Ken, because it's going to be to be determined. Anything you Google, because like, they have to really look through the candidates.
Everything I'm seeing is it's like all the articles that pop up are the preseason, even though I type in specifically in
Yeah.
season.
Mhm.
That might be something worth researching a little deeper when I can dig deeper into websites. But it's interesting because like last year it was Miami, so if you were to take an NFC North team to be on Hard Knocks in season, if the Lions come out and are still playing well, I think the Lions become Dan Campbell, and some of the stuff. They are a team. The Packers, I wouldn't say they would be a good consideration, but I don't think they're as colorful as the Lions with Dan Campbell.
Oh, I think we
a
have
lot
a
of the
little bit more of a
reason.
draw than the Lions because
No,
of Jordan Love
no one
story.
gives a shit about what LaFleur says. He's not a snarky guy. He doesn't make snarky comments. You know why the reason the Dolphins got picked is because their head coach is a freaking riot to watch, right?
I was going to say you should watch a little bit more of Matt LaFleur stuff. He makes some fucking
Matt LaFleur's snarkiness and comments and no, he doesn't hold a candle to the dude in Detroit. The guy in Detroit
he's putting on a fucking performance out there.
That's why. But that's what I'm saying. That's why Hard Knocks, I think, would go more towards Detroit because of Dan Campbell. Because the only reason that I think they went to the Dolphins last year was their head coach. Because their head coach is freaking riot. He's fun as hell to watch. And I think Dan Campbell's that much of a character more than LaFleur. LaFleur, okay, he's a young guy. He's a good coach. I'm not saying he's not or any of that, but I'm just saying if you want the guy for the soundbite, it's not LaFleur versus Campbell. Campbell's the soundbite guy. Mm-hmm. So I think the HBO would go there also because they won their first playoff game in 32 years. So that's a little bit of a story too. I think that would be more of where the NFL Hard Knocks would go NFC North edition if they did take a second NFC North team next year.
I have an option that you guys will all hate. The Chiefs.
Oh my God!
I think winning the Super Bowl kind of I think you have the power to say no. There's got to be a certain criteria. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a criteria for it. Like the Dolphins were eligible for Hard Knocks or preseason last year, I think. No, wait, they weren't because they had made the playoffs the year before. So I'm not sure they were eligible for something. We gotta find out what that eligibility criteria is for in season. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think winning the Super Bowl, you can kind of tell them to take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah, it'll be a little entertaining, right? Because take away the Swift aspect of it, you know what I mean? But Andy Reid's a funny coach, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see it in these commercials, these State Farm commercials. He's pretty hilarious, and he doesn't care about his weight. You know what I mean? He admit to you he loves cheeseburgers and people. You know what I mean? And
Hey Isaac, why don't you break that down again? But this time with the nuggies.
Yeah. Explain that to me again, but with those nuggets.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mahomes, you know what I mean? He's got a little humor in him. You know, you can see that. I mean, other than his Kermit the Frog voice, but he's got his little humor and Darcy from Roseanne, but also Travis Kelce. I mean, he's a little fired up guy. He's a little controversial figure too because of what we did to Andy Reid. You know what I mean? But it'll be a little bit entertaining there. And then you never know during the show. Travis Kelce's brother might show up out of nowhere.
Yeah, if Jason doesn't Jason Kelce's now not maybe retired. He said he'll know in a couple of weeks. So that whole story is interesting with that. But yeah, if Jason Kelce actually retires, also Jason. Well, you're going to see Jason regardless if they do in season because they're going to do a week on Travis because the way the in season works, they basically have a player profile a week. Well, okay, well, you're covering KC. You're obviously going to do a week on on Travis. So if you're going to do a week on Travis, you're obviously going to see him do his podcast with Jason. And they're going to make that and Taylor a part of it. But I would probably think that if the criteria list for in season, the Chiefs are one of the teams that might be excludable by some criteria.
Yeah.
But I think
I'm
Lions.
just thinking about the entertainment aspect of it.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, man. Reed is. I love his. He's making that. Because we didn't have good athlete commercials for a long time. Let's
Yeah.
face it. Peyton Manning, as good as a player is, his commercials, especially beginning, were so like. Well, it was like watching Nick Green try to give commentary, very monotone and boring, or more like John Dorn trying to give a smart take, right? So no, I just picked on those guys, but let's face it, the entertainment factor with professional athletes and commercials since the Jordan era and all those guys at Barkley, those guys retired and stopped making commercials, were pretty bad. Now you got the Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid and Travis. I mean, those are great commercials. And Reid, the first one he did was the best, right?
Yeah.
With the magic marker.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
Okay, that one I will agree with. I liked, but I find the fucking one with the chicken nuggets so fucking annoying.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
even gonna front straight up. I cannot stand that one. Every time it comes
The
on,
funniest one,
it's an automatic eye roll of, oh, come on.
the
Not
funniest
guess
one
it's a
to
channel.
me is great work, but who are the chefs? Great googly moogly.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's for those who are old enough, maybe not Dominic. That's a play on the old Snickers commercial, the original Snickers commercial from the '80s, right?
Mm.
Whereas like the guy, it was they just remade the commercial. That's a remake commercial.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
run
Look,
out of
look.
ideas, I guess.
No, I mean, well, it makes sense so because Andy Reid and he's comedic, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense that they redid it, but for the younger fans, they don't understand that was a Snickers commercial about 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a
Or maybe
while.
40 years ago. It's been a while. Not
But-
going anywhere.
Yeah,
When
80s,
when they first started that catchphrase, not going anywhere, that's when Snickers did it. And that was like back, I want to say in the 90s.
But Nick does kind of bring up a good point here, even though he
doesn't, because I'm not talking about the Bears quarterback coaching situation.
about the DC when you're having such trouble with the offense.
Well, okay. Once again, no. Okay, look it. Did the Bears have a DC at the end of the season? No. Answer. There you go, Nick. Answer the question. Why would you get a DC when your quarterback when you have QB struggles? First off, I'm not going to take the clickbait and have a whole Justin Fields discussion an hour into the show. Secondly, because the team didn't have a DC. So you needed to hire a DC and you needed to hire an OC.
And having DC as the head coach. Because Eberflus is so locked in on the defense.
Okay. I'm not getting into Bears coaching talk today. We can talk about that Monday, Nick. We're talking about Hard Knocks and that, and we're about at the end of the hour here for the show, and I don't want to go for 3 hours. I mean, come on. I mean, trolling and being a homer is one thing, dude, but come on, man. I mean, that's just a stupid question. Why would the Packers hire an offensive coach when you had defensive issues and you had the best offensive quarterback in the league? Why does any organization hire a head coach? Because when they talk to the head coach, they like what the head coaches say, whether he's offensive or defensive. I think that's something fans put more stock into than GMs do. I mean, there goes some of that, but look at the Bears defense has also done a complete turnaround from worst to one of the best under Eberflus. So, if the Bears hire an offensive coach, and let's say your offense does better, but now your defense sucks, what's the comment? Well, why'd you hire an offensive-minded coach when your defense sucks?
Well, I think with the whole offensive head coaches, with it being more prominent in the league, they're more tied with.
The last coach we hired was an offensive coach. His name was Matt Nagy, and he fucking sucked.
Matt Nagy didn't make a good head coach.
So, anyways, going back on topic, right? Going back on topic after we got the Nick Green sideways rail car.
Right?
If not an NFC North team for Hard Knocks for in-season, who else do you think would make a good
face all day? Oh yeah, I'm gonna just show this. Can I have a screensaver?
Yeah.
That was it. Who else would be a good Isaac? I muted you because you had background noise coming in. So whatever the noise in the back goes off, unmute or whatever. All right. So who else would be a good in-season Hard Knocks franchise that you think they might tag?
So
I can never come up with.
How about the Bucks with Baker Mayfield?
That would be entertaining.
That's
They are
that's
so
revenue
long-
right there, because Cleveland was just like ping pong leave and everything. Who was he on last year? The Panthers, and he got booted, or because he's been around the league. Mayfield,
Yeah.
Browns,
Yeah,
Rams.
no, he played for the Rams the year before.
Okay, so I mean his career is kind of forgettable.
And
But
if anyone in the comments knows what their criteria is to be compelled to be on in season, please let us know. I'm going to try to research it, this weekend. But yeah, I mean,
Ooh,
Texans would be a good one
great
too.
one right
that's
there.
It'll be good.
good call. Yeah, that'd be a good call, especially after the coming off with the defensive and offensive rookies of the year. That could be a good one. I don't know if because they basically pick it up around week 8 is
Yeah.
when they pick up a team. So they have to have a feeling by that point that
Bill-
they're going to be in the playoff
I can agree,
conversation.
yeah, I can agree with the Bills too,
Yeah.
because of all the drama that they got going on there with Stephon Diggs and how they're constantly underachieving by their own expectations.
Ask Allen why he isn't a champion yet, but
The Steelers avoided
uh,
being on the preseason Hard Knocks by sneaking into the playoffs. I don't know if the NFL would play them that dirty.
Mike Tomlin he hasn't had a losing season, has he?
Ever.
Can you can't put somebody who hasn't had a losing season like
Mhm.
I think
Well,
that's a
that's what I'm saying.
criteria.
I'm wondering what
All
the
right, guys,
chronology-
take care. We'll
All right,
bounce.
have a good one,
We'll see
Isaac.
you.
Yeah, we're up at about an hour. I don't know, Patriots.
Yeah,
With the new coach,
that would be
That would be
entertaining.
nice. That would be really nice.
Because there's the big question mark of how Gerard Mayo is going to do as a head coach, and that.
Well, the
Are they going to
Raiders.
trade that number 3? There's a
The
lot of
Ra-
questions.
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, but remember, we're talking about in season, so that question is already answered by then, Dom. The
Okay, yeah,
Raiders
that's true.
with Pierce in Vegas.
Ooh,
So I mean,
there's
it's
a lot
just,
of teams you can do.
and that's what I'm saying. I'm just wondering what the in season criteria would be. And here's the thing, because if the Bears meet the in season criteria, I don't think the NFL would do you dirty like this. But could you imagine if they said, "Hey, Chicago, we had Hard Knocks there for in season, so the apparatus is there. You're a playoff contending team this year. We're going to get you for in season too." I mean, that would just piss the Bears off.
Gotta disrupt
nobody's
stuff.
See, I'd like to, it'd be interesting to see. I think if you ask McDaniels in Miami, he would say, "Yeah, it didn't make much difference." The way they treated it, it didn't make much difference. I mean, but I think if you ask the players, you might get a different story.
Yeah.
But the way McDaniels handled it last year was like,
And then the Titans without their head coach, and since they're moving on from Henry too.
yeah, but that would be more of a preseason. The Henry drama would be a preseason versus an in season. Because, like I said, by the time they pick you up, it's week 8 or week 9. So you're halfway through the season. The Henry drama is going to be long, ancient history.
Yeah, but they're still going to be comparing the running backs filling in with him versus Henry.
If they're a playoff contending team, I would probably say not so much.
What's up there, Rick?
What's up?
What are your thoughts on who should be for the in-season Hard Knocks?
In season?
Yeah. The one where they follow you through pretty much your playing coach.
Right. No, I didn't even watch the Miami one this year. I don't know why I didn't. It probably would have been a pretty good one. I mean, I still can't.
It was.
Shit, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, the Packers don't like to do that thing. Obviously, the Packers would be freaking ideal. They usually pick a team with a new coach, so I would assume maybe Atlanta might be up, in line for it. I can
see that.
Well, McDaniels though had been there for 2 years when they picked him. I think they try to pick teams for ins. Yeah, I think they try
interesting.
Yeah.
I think they try to pick teams though for in season, because remember they start filming at week 8. So by week 5, if they think you're going to be a playoff contending team, I think that's part of their criteria, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, they want to probably do a winner in the beginning. For the Hard Knocks, that before the season they don't really get. It's probably that's what I was more like thinking of. Seattle, Atlanta, maybe for the original one, but for the in season, you're probably right. It'd probably be somebody that's got playoff aspirations and how they handle that shit during the season. That makes sense.
Rick, you may have missed it before when I said that there are only 3 teams that are eligible for preseason Hard Knocks, and that's the Bears, the Saints, and the Broncos. Those are the only 3 teams that can be forced eligible.
Oh,
Because
that's
they
right.
make-
New coach. Wait a second. New coaches, they're not eligible because they got
Yeah,
new
they're
coaches.
exempt.
Right?
Yeah, your coach has to have been there for at least 2 years, and you haven't had. And if you've not been in the playoffs for 2 years, and your coach is not a new coach, so your coach could, if he was entering year 2, you're eligible. But if you have a brand new coach or you haven't been in the playoffs in 2 years, you're eligible to be on Hard Knocks. And only 3 teams meet that qualifier, and that'd be the Broncos, the Saints.
I mean, the freaking Packers, that HBO and the NFL had a prime opportunity to do the Packers last year.
They did.
Now they're not going to have a chance because the Packers will be, I mean, I'm not trying to be conceited here because I'm a Packer fan, but I'm just saying, that it's going to be hard pressed if the Packers not make the playoffs and not make the playoffs in the near future. You know what I mean? So that they're going to be out. They had their opportunity to get them last year and they screwed that up.
I mean, let's face it. In our division, unless you're the Lions, your odds of being on Hard Knocks usually aren't great because most of the North teams seem to get in every 2 years. Every so often is a 3-year drop. But the Lions are the ones who are probably always going to be at the most risk in the North. Let's be real. Now, of course,
2 years. You got to be 2 years removed from the playoffs for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That
now
picks
you
up the
can't.
Vikings.
So the Vikings, though, if they don't get to the playoffs this season, could be eligible next year.
I wonder if they'll change the rules since if those 3 teams aren't very, camera worthy or appealing to the fans. I wonder if they'll change the rules and have to pick somebody else. That's possible.
The thing I can't think though of any team that they've ever covered where that was the case. So because they usually got at least 2 to 3 to pick from, and usually at least 2 of them, like this year's crop. Like, okay, the Saints would probably be like, not as exciting. But with the Broncos, you've got the whole Russ Wilson, Coach Payton thing going on there. With Chicago, you got probably two first-round draft picks. The quarterback won't be a controversy. It'll either be Fields or it'll be Caleb, right? I mean, depending which camp you're on. So, but that'll still be a part of that storyline, right? Like they stuck with Fields, prove it, blah blah blah, or they're going with the hot rookie. So that'll be a storyline plus whatever else they get in the first round and free agency. So
the Bears would be intriguing. Do they trade? That they if they do end up trading Fields, having the new quarterback and stuff like that.
Well, that's one. Yeah.
Nope.
Even if they don't trade Fields, which I don't think they will, it's going to be interesting because then you're going to have 2 first-rounders plus they just freed up. Look, you don't free up $21 million in cap money to not use it, right?
They're planning something.
Yeah, you're doing something. So the Bears being one of the oldest franchises in the league, it's compelling to HBO for that too. So I'm surprised. The only reason the Packers didn't get it last year is because Rodgers was on the Jets.
Yeah,
that's the only reason.
The next comment there is, the Jets were the perfect team for it. They missed the opportunity with Green Bay, but they definitely chose the right team. With it being Rodgers and him changing teams, everybody watched that shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point by Nick. Yeah, the Jets was probably the right pick. I mean, Green Bay, everybody would have watched Green Bay because, it's fucking Green Bay, right? Everybody would have watched that,
Well, yeah,
don't get me wrong. I see you laugh, but the same with the Bears. The Bears are a historic franchise. That's interesting TV. I mean, the Bears, Packers. I mean, that's interesting shit, right? I mean,
I would have watched the Packers because the storyline coming into this last season was a compelling storyline. Like, well, can Jordan Love be the guy? Because that's what they would have focused on, right?
Just like I would have watched if it's Chicago, just to see if they stick with Fields. Is he finally pulling it out? Or is he what the rival fan bases have been saying? Or if they do go with Caleb, do I got to be worried about this sumbitch for the next 10 years? Or is it just another Bears quarterback flop that I get to sit and revel in?
I mean, I thought that, that they picked perfect with the Jets because it wasn't just that Aaron was going there. It was all these other things. It was a perfect call for them. Had Aaron not gone to the Jets and stayed in Green Bay, I would still have gone with Green. Then I would have definitely gone with Green Bay because there would have been Aaron Rodgers drama again, right? So they made the right call. I don't know, the Packers had obviously and the Bears last year had a sigh of relief because thank God Aaron, you went to the Jets. We don't have to deal because none of the teams want to deal with it. It seems Cincinnati back in the day, they said, well, we didn't have a problem with it. They were on it twice. But I know like Jerry Jones, he got to show off on it, so he was cool because he got to show off, but he doesn't want to be there. I think a lot of you ask owners about, we don't want to be on that show, because if you're on that show, it means you haven't been in the playoffs in 2 years. I think that's really, for a lot of the owners, that especially like a guy like Jerry Jones, that's the only reason he doesn't want to be on it. If he could be on it every year, be forced to be on it, like he won't volunteer because, he doesn't want to make his coaching staff and some people mad because of the disruption. But dude, Jerry Jones, if he could be on it every year, he would fucking be on it every year.
Absolutely.
Hold on, Ken. I want to change the subject. Hold on. I want to ask you a question. You're a Bears fan.
Yeah.
And I don't just hear me out, okay? With the Bears screwing up last year by trading the number 1 and losing out on C.J. Stroud, right? I don't know who they had, if they would have picked the quarterback, if they would have picked Stroud or would have picked Bryce Young. I don't know, but all points, they probably would have picked Stroud because he was better than frickin', even in college, he was better than frickin' Bryce Young. Anyway, do you think Poles is a little stressed out right now? Because, you say that they're going to keep Justin Fields. Do you think that he can make that mistake again? I'm not saying it's not about Justin Fields' talent. It's not about that, right? It's not, but if they don't think that he's the guy in year 4 or whatever year he's going to go, he's going into year 4, right?
Going into year 4.
And he's going into year 4. He's got a bunch of starts underneath his belt. And people can say all they want about, you saw his progression last year and so forth and so forth.
Which is true.
But how much longer can you sit there and sit on a guy and watch his progression in year 4? Do you think Poles is stressed out about drafting a quarterback because he missed out on Stroud last year? Do you think that puts added pressure on him?
Okay, so
because of that?
I'll answer your question, because the first thing you said was absolutely 100%, 1000% incorrect and wrong. A lot of people think that Poles made the trade of the century last year with the trade, because he didn't mess up the number 1 pick last year. He got an all-pro wide receiver who, by the way, had a career year in Chicago, and got a number 1 overall pick for trading the number 1 overall pick last year, and got other draft capital. So no one and anywhere else outside of Green Bay fans are saying the Bears screwed up that pick last year, or that by making that trade.
Wrong. You're right.
Because,
that's word wrong. He got great value for that pick.
That was the trade of the century. So the second, hold on, the second part. Rick, let me finish.
Hold on.
I'll just make it easy so I can finish answering your initial question, then come back. Okay. So on the second half of your question, right? I'd say no, he's not worried, because where have we seen this before? Draft the quarterback, have a head coach, next year fire the head coach, hire a new head coach, 2 or 3 years later draft a new quarterback, a year after that fire a head coach. We're breaking the cycle. And I think the writing's on the wall for Fields. I didn't want to get into this today. Honestly, we could start the week off next week, because we're already up on just over an hour, and we don't want to be here for 3 hours today. But Kevin Warren saying this: I'm glad Justin Fields is on the Bears. The president and CEO, Poles' boss, right? Just endorsed keeping Justin Fields in Chicago. So I don't think Poles is stressing. I don't think anyone cares what any of the talking heads like us, podcasters like us, or the guys who work for CBS Sports or ESPN, they could give a damn what these guys think, is the right answer for their team. I think Poles and Warren think that Fields is their guy, and they're going to use that pick. They're going to trade back, to a certain point, and then they're going to do things to improve the football team on both sides of the ball. Offensively, if you add Marvin Harrison Jr., for example, you improve Fields, you improve Moore, you improve the running room, you improve the linebacking core, you improve your tight end room, all by adding one wide receiver, because now he's going to pull coverage. You can't put 8 in the box, all these other things. So that I don't think Poles gives a rat's ass about what anyone in any type of media thinks, or any fan thinks. He's not sweating it. I've been saying from the jump we're not drafting Caleb Williams. We're not drafting May. We're not drafting a quarterback. They're going to ride with Justin Fields for the next year, possibly two, because we'll know by June 1st on the fifth-year option, right? But I think they're going to extend him at $40 million a year, because that's about what his track is right now, 40, 43, somewhere in there, while he's cheaper, because then they can always void that contract out and cut him, depending on the guarantee, after a year or two. If they get a new head coach, if they fire Fluss, they'll cut Fields at that point, hire a coach, get a quarterback, right? I think that's the way they're working. So, no, there's zero stress there for Poles. He could give a rat's ass what any of us think, or the
So
media.
you don't think, don't get me wrong. Now, let me go back. What I wanted to correct, everybody says that they screwed up. They didn't screw up the trade per se, right?
No one's saying they screwed up the trade.
People say that he screwed up the trade because he gave up the chance to take C.J. Stroud.
Hold on.
I'll let you finish. Let me finish.
Don't yell. Calm down.
Well, you were talking to me and let me finish, and I got muted, and so just let me finish. What I said, now I lost my train of thought, so I'm just done. I just lost
No, Rick, I know what you're saying. You were saying that and I was going to ask you, show me where people said they screwed up by not drafting Stroud and getting the number one pick this year and getting DJ Moore. Because here's the question, Rick. Because Rick, here's the question. Rick, here's the question. Rick, stop.
Well, hold on. Let Rick get in.
Hold on. Let me finish the train of thought. I was going to say, let me ask, and you cut me off. And then I'll bring you right back, I promise. If Caleb Williams is such a generational talent and the best quarterback to hit the draft ever, how would having the opportunity to take him 1 overall, all right, Dominic, be number 1 overall, be a mistake over Stroud if Caleb is the best prospect we've seen in 10 years? So that would mean that Caleb's a better prospect than Stroud. That's what I was going to tell you.
Say you there, Rick?
Well, I'm here, but I said I lost my train of thought. I mean, I can't finish what I'm trying to say, and because people keep fucking interrupting, and I can't finish my train of thought. So then I forget what I've got to say.
So Rick, like you mean you were interrupting my train of thought as I was talking, and then you lost your train of thought because I didn't let you interrupt my train of thought? That's what just happened. And I just said you were talking about how the Bears. Everyone had said the Bears screwed up by not drafting Stroud.
And I'm trying to correct that, and then you jump back in after I said a sentence, and you jump back in.
So
that's exactly what you did, Ken.
So go. I that's what we were talking about.
And I just said I lost my train of thought because you interrupted me, bro.
All right. Well, hey, I don't have time for yelling back and forth today. We've been on for an hour 20. Let's just end it at that. I didn't want to get
Ken,
into
let me just ask you a question, Ken. Would you trade Jordan Love would you trade Jordan Love right now for what the Bears traded the number 1 pick away last year in order to to not draft a franchise quarterback? Would you give up? Would you trade a pick? It just so happened to be the number 1 overall pick this year, but that was unknown after the trade happened. That was an unknown. The Bears got lucky. The Bears got lucky in that the Carolina Panthers lost that many games to have the number 1 pick. They didn't expect to have the number 1 pick again, right?
Okay. So
would you trade all that, DJ Moore, for Jordan Love? Whatever the Bears got for fucking that number 1 pick last year, would you trade that for Jordan Love right now and a franchise quarterback?
No. I'm not giving you the number 1 pick for Jordan Love. You kidding? No. And if Jordan Love was a prospect, would I have drafted Jordan Love number 1?
Let me traded the number 1 pick. Ken, you traded the number 1 pick last year.
Let me finish. I'm trying to answer your question.
Dude, I'm talking to Ken now.
And well, okay, but this is Ken and Ken in the morning. Rick. Let me finish talking. So, would I trade to finish that question, Ken? Would I trade the number 1 pick and DJ Moore for Jordan Love now? No. If he was, and where I was going before Rick cut me off was, if he was, let's say, in the draft, Jordan Love was in the draft last year, would I have done it? I think the answer to that would also be no as a prospect, because even the Packers didn't take him till the very end of the first round as a prospect. So, like last year with the whole quarterback debate for 1 and 2, look at Ken, you and I have talked about this. We know the hit rate on a quarterback in the first round is about 40% at best. It's not even a 50-50. So I don't know if you make that trade, even if you're the Packers, even would you make that trade? I don't think you
That's
do.
what I'm talking,
Okay.
Ken. I'm talking. I
Okay,
asked
yeah.
that question to Ken, the other Ken. That's
Yeah.
the question. I wasn't asking you the question. I was asking Ken, the other Ken, the question.
Okay, yeah. When you're asking one of us a question, go by Ken the Packer fan or Ken the Bear fan. That way
Yeah,
we can
delineate.
That's fine. That question was
Okay.
to you, Ken the Packer
Okay.
fan, not the other. That,
Would I trade Jordan Love for what they gave up for what Carolina gave up to get the pick last year?
Would you? Right, exactly.
No.
So what I'm saying to you,
But-
Ken, is you're willing to trade another a potential franchise quarterback away that you did in C.J. Stroud to do that again this year, is what I'm saying. I mean, so you would give the opportunity. You would keep Justin Fields.
Yes.
With the potential of what Caleb Williams or any one of those top guys.
Yes.
You're willing to trade.
I'll say it again. Yes.
Do you see? Can I before you if you would let me finish, I could get what I want to say out. Then you can answer the fucking question without me getting pissed off. But you interrupt everybody all the time, Ken. You got to let people freaking finish what they want to say. I mean, seriously. I mean, so you'll be willing to give up a potential franchise quarterback again for what? Justin Fields?
Yes.
I was going to say he's a Justin Fields guy and believer, so there's no way he's going to go against it. It'd be like us going against Love. It's just not going to happen. Now, I can see what you're saying by these quarterbacks that got drafted did amazing, like Patrick Mahomes, like C.J. Stroud, but at that point, you didn't know that they were going to be so damn good.
That's true too.
And here's the thing. So, Ken and I looked back at quarterbacks. We were researching together the hit rate. Okay, and we were looking back at the hit. We were looking at the hit rate of quarterbacks taken in the first round, and we did 10 years.
It's terrible.
Quarterback by quarterback, and for basically for Fields, they said it was undetermined, trending up. Okay. So in Fields, you've got a known commodity that's trending upwards. He's not a bust. Him and Lawrence, by the way, the only two from that draft class, not a bust. And Lawrence was number 1 overall. Fields was at number 11. So you've got a quarterback you've seen progression. You've got a head coach you just retained who was on the hot seat. You have a situation in Chicago where you've done this before, where you got rid of Trubisky, brought in Fields, and next year, he's there with Nagy for a year, fire and bring a new coach, rinse and repeat, and it's been that problem in Chicago for a while. So you've got that too. Then you've got the club president and CEO saying, we are damn happy to have Justin Fields here. If that's not a red star cluster to you saying they want to keep Justin, right? There's that. And then look at, who knows that Caleb is not a guarantee. Drake May is not a guarantee. None of these guys are a guarantee. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that have been guarantees that didn't even make it one season.
First round. Nothing is a guarantee in the draft, period.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no guarantee ever in the draft, ever.
Yeah, that's why I can see them sticking with Fields, like with what Ken said. They had tried retreading it over and over with, okay, well, if we just get rid of this coach and bring in a new quarterback, it's going to solve all the problems here.
And I get that too. I get that 100% too. I do. But Ken is trying to say he's trying to break the Bears are trying to break the wheel. Well, what happens if Eberflus they have another bad season, which it could happen.
So then you fire and cut.
And then what
happens?
Yeah, it's brought its way to an all or nothing moment type of thing. That you're either going to succeed together or you're all going down together.
I mean, look, if the Bears win, there's going to be a little bit of a caveat with this. I think right now our division is one of these divisions you can win 10 games next year and be in the base. We got that kind of division going on right now. Now the Vikings are more of the wild card in that, right? You could win 10 games and not make the playoffs next year. If the Bears win 10 games and don't make the playoffs, do they fire Eberflus and get rid of Fields? Not necessarily, right? Look, you got to remember the Bears were 5-7 the last 7 games, or 5-2 the last 7 games of Justin Fields, right? That's showing you something, because his second half of the season compared to his first were night and day comparisons. So they're looking at that too. Like, as fans who go, yeah, but over 3 years. Well, the first year under Matt Nagy, which we all know Nagy sucked. The first year as a rookie with basically no wide receivers. He just got DJ Moore this year.
Okay, so
by the
hold
way,
on. Let me just rebuttal real quick.
and by the way, they're the number 1 rated PFF duo in the league, and DJ Moore just literally had a career year with Fields. So you look at that. So it's an easy decision for them to make versus an unknown quantity in a rookie quarterback. CJ Stroud's a one-off. He's not the norm.
Can you really say that Nagy sucked when you just came after you said that Nagy sucked? You just said they had no wide receivers and this and that. But was it really Nagy's fault if the players weren't there? How is it Nagy's fault? How in the same sentence can you say Nagy's fault is it's Nagy's fault or Nagy's fault, and then the very next word out of your mouth was the Bears didn't have any wide receivers, they didn't have this, and they didn't have that. Well, if you don't have the players, the coach can only be as good as the fucking players, right?
So, because the numbers don't lie, in 2018, they had a 12-win season, win the division, make the playoffs, and the next 2 years, they couldn't find themselves out of a wet paper bag with the same personnel groups.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Nagy's doing pretty damn good in Kansas City right now, is all I'm saying.
Well, he's probably...
Is Nagy the head coach there? No, he's not.
That's what I'm about to allude to. He's probably one of those that's an outstanding coordinator, but absolutely sucks as a head coach. We've seen this in the NFL.
All kinds of those in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a certain guy named Josh Daniels, who just got fired from the Raiders last year, and that's and that dude's had 2 head coaching opportunities. In both cases, he's taken those franchises who had playoff quality teams when he took them and made them non-playoff teams. That dude will probably never get their head.
You got to give him the caveat. He did lead Tim Tebow to a freaking playoff win, so that's the only small caveat I'll give him.
McDaniel's worst enemy is he gets power underneath him and he gets fucking power hungry and he just wants to do it, and he can never be a head coach. He's just too much power for him to handle.
I mean, well, obviously, Cody, because Poles has not been there for the last 2 years. And yes, John Doran, Nagy was coach of the year in 2018. And then after that, the wheels fell off for him. But who also did Poles draft? Who was the guy that he brought to the Chiefs and said, you need to get this guy? Oh, yeah, the guy who just won his 3rd Super Bowl MVP that the Bears didn't draft. Because I know you guys are going to talk about Mitch Trubisky next, blah, 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 whatever, don't care. But for this current regime, and back to Rick's original question, Poles feels no pressure. These guys don't listen to guys like me and you on podcasts. They're not listening to the guys at NFL Network pontificate their insider knowledge. Hell, Poles probably doesn't even talk to any of those guys, right? He doesn't care what's being talked about on 670 The Score in Chicago or on sports radio, Cheesehead Sports Radio in Wisconsin or Raven Sports Radio in Baltimore. He doesn't give a shit. He knows that what he's got in his quarterback, how his quarterback has played overall over 3 years, how he's made some leaps and bound chain up trajectories. He knows that if he drafts Caleb and now has to fire Eberflus after next year, he's in the same exact situation 2 years later, probably.
Let me ask you real quick, Ken. Did Poles draft Fields?
No, Poles did not draft Fields.
So
he was the season before.
So when Poles got hired, Fields was forced on Poles. He had no choice but to keep him.
Yeah, it's not the guy he married himself to.
Usually GMs like their own to be able to pick their own quarterback. Now, Poles, hold on. You say that he has no pressure. He's got all the fucking pressure because if they don't make the playoffs next year, he's going to be fired. So, yes, he does have pressure in his job 100%. 100% he's got pressure. You can't come in your freaking introductory news conference and say, we're going to take the North and never give it back and not win it once. And then come back and then not draft.
Question because I want to be off before noon.
Whether what you got, doesn't matter if what you got in return for the first round pick last year, The fact of the matter is that C.J. Stroud is a franchise quarterback. Hold on. He's a franchise quarterback, period. If Poles sticks with Justin Fields again in the 4th year, people are hacking on Jordan Love because he hasn't played. He sucks. 4th year comes in and he starts fucking doing – he hasn't started a game, comes in, has a freaking awesome year this year. Well, then you got what? Then here's Justin Fields, who has started football games the last 4 years as a starter for the Bears. I get that you're a Justin Fields fan. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you the fact. It's the same thing. So, what has Justin Fields proven to you that he can be the guy and Poles is going to stick with him?
Oh, finally got the question.
Listen to me. I don't give a shit what the CEO says or the president says. What is he going to do? Justin Fields sucks. We're going to move on. See, he doesn't want to listen. He doesn't want to listen to what the facts are. I don't give a shit. Even with the Packers. Even with the Packers, they with Goot coming out and saying about Jair Alexander, I don't give a shit, dude. What are they gonna come out and say that the guy sucks?
Where is your question? It's been an hour. Give me your question for me already.
They're gonna try to get the best. They're gonna talk him up to try to get the best deal for him. They're not gonna come out and say, yeah, he's gone.
Okay, so after a 20-minute question, and I don't want to be on here till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ken. So let me answer this and let's call it a day. We can talk about this stuff.
Dude,
we can talk about this stuff on Monday. I mean, we don't need to be here for 3 hours, and we weren't even gonna talk about this today. Look, to answer Rick's question, like I said, I think Poles married himself to Fields last year when he bypassed on taking a quarterback. So he kind of said, hey, that's my guy already last year. And if it doesn't work, Poles his job's not on the line with this one because of all the other talent that he's drafted and is doing exceptionally well in Chicago with, right? Like the entire secondary, for instance, right? Bringing in Montez Sweat. So, but if Fields and Eberflus don't work this year, and I think you and I can agree on this. If he fires Eberflus, he cuts Poles, and then we look for a quarterback. And all this, I get it. He wants to come on. He wants to frickin' troll and make his big point on how he's so smart. And Bear fans are stupid, and Packer fans are great. We had a structure for the show today, and Rick comes on, just blows it all up, and then does a 25-minute question. But that's the short answer.
I will give Rick the caveat. I don't think he was trying to troll. I honestly think that he was working through that because there is a lot of talk going on in the league that is Poles more on the hot seat because of all these quarterbacks that have been missed. Which you got to admit is a valid question.
I mean, to a degree, but the reason I don't think so is because GMs usually get 2 head coaches, right, before they're let go. And the other reason I don't think so is even you could say, yeah, but he passed on Stroud, and Rick can go on for a half hour about how great Stroud is. Now Stroud's a franchise quarterback. Would it be something if Stroud comes out this year and has a shit year? Right? I mean, after 1 year,
it is possible, but I don't.
After 1 year, I'm not calling you a franchise quarterback. After 1 year, you got to do it for 2 or 3. Then you're a franchise quarterback, right? Is Fields a franchise quarterback? Not yet. Is there the upside that could be that? Well, yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't be saying, "Well, trade him to Atlanta and he'll be their franchise quarterback," or trade him to he'll be the answer in New England, or he'll be all these. That's the other thing with Fields. All these trade possibilities, they all talk about he will be the answer to whatever. JR, I don't know if Love is a franchise quarterback yet. He has shown that he could be after this year.
I think he definitely showed he is a franchise guy.
No, you don't show after 1 season. Otherwise, is Geno Smith a franchise quarterback? He had 1 great season in Seattle.
There's a huge difference.
No, there is not, Ken, because he had
all those years of prior quarterback stuff that is out there that shows that this is his average, and he spiked at that time.
Look, I know you're a Packer fan. Jordan Love's your guy, but come on, dude. You don't, after 1 season of starting, anoint someone a franchise quarterback. You don't anoint anyone. I mean, so Stroud, Love, could they be franchise quarterbacks? right now, based off the one season each has had as a starter, it's looking like it could be a yes. But you can't say they are definitely franchise quarterbacks based off of a sample size of one. Now you give me a sample size of 2 years. Now I can say, yeah, looks like you got your franchise quarterback. Because like if they come out in year 2 and completely bomb and shit the bed, well then is he really your franchise quarterback? So I would say he's on track to be that. It looks good. It's looking like that is could be the case,
To
but I
me,
won't anoint
he would
anyone
have to
off of
fall
one season.
in. He would have to fall in on himself so much. It would require
And
a
that can happen.
I mean, it is possible, but it is not likely.
And so that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying I wouldn't anoint anyone. And with Love, with Love, I can make more of the argument for that than Stroud, because Stroud was a straight up rookie. Love's a 4-year pro, right? So he's been around the game. He knows the game. You know, he's got a little more knowledge and everything else than Stroud does. But I won't anoint anyone as a franchise quarterback after one season of play. So, I mean, even Fields is not a franchise quarterback yet. Does he have the potential of being one? I believe so. Poles believe so. Warren believes so. A lot of players believe so. Just like they think, a lot of people think Love could be a franchise quarterback. Stroud could be but you got to do it more than one full season. Is what I'm saying.
The difference between them is that people are asking, does Fields have the ability to be the guy? Where the talk you're hearing about Love is that does he have what it takes to be one of the top guys in the league? Not if he can do it.
Like I said, I'm not going to annoy you. You can spin however you want to spin. They're after one season. I don't see anyone after one season can be anointed a franchise quarterback. You have to have a sample size of 2. Do it years in a row, you can probably be called a franchise quarterback. But we've seen throughout history where someone after one season is anointed X and then they're not. So, and just like it's like a draft pick, you know, Caleb Williams is the best prospect ever until he's the next Ryan Leaf. You know what I mean? So, I mean, okay, Love is going in the right direction.
When did Ryan Leaf look good ever?
Well, when he was the number 1 pick in the draft, so obviously he did.
Well, that's a huge difference between what he did in college versus the NFL.
No, I'm just saying with all these arguments, it's like you got to have a sample size. A sample size of 1 is not a sample size. Otherwise, science would use a sample size of 1 instead of multiple samples, right? So you've got to have a bigger sample size. I won't anoint, and that goes back to the question that he was asking about polls. It's like, no, for him, it's simple. Justin's trending the right way. The team was trending the right way at the end of the season. You've got familiarity with the offense. He knows the offense. You brought in a new coordinator, so the offense will change a little bit, but he's got chemistry. He knows the players, the line, his team loves him. He has the locker room. He has the head coach. So, and if it doesn't work and the Bears go 4-13, Fields is looking for a new team. Flus is looking for a new job. You're hiring a new head coach, a new OC, a new DC, get a new quarterback. You're doing all that. But no, you're not going that. So, and I didn't want to talk about this because this is a whole show conversation. We've been doing this. We're at 1:40 right now. We were hoping to be an hour a day, and they come in at the last minute, blow the show up because he feels he wants to talk about the Bears quarterback situation, which we already said we weren't going to talk about for a good week or two. Is just complete fucking bullshit. So I could sit there, we could talk it ad nauseum, but look at Packer fans, no matter what quarterback the Bears draft, you fuckers are going to say the same bullshit every time. Even if my quarterback beats your dick into the dirt so hard you can't get up for 15 years, you're going to say the same bullshit.
Well,
and just like I'm going to say the same bullshit, and I'm going to say the same bullshit about the Packers. This is known. So either we can talk about football, and when we give an answer, respect each other enough to understand that, like me and you do, or we can be like what Rick does and say, well, no, you have to be wrong because you're a Bears fan. No, you don't have to be wrong because you're a Packers fan. But when the Bears fan who follows the team more than you do, and everything else is telling you this is everything they're seeing, then don't tell them how, well, even Ryan Poles is wrong. And then you know what, Rick, go fucking be the GM for the Chicago Bears. Call up the McCaskies. Tell them you're the most qualified person in the NFL to do this. No, John, I'm just being honest with Rick. But I mean, come on, guys. I mean, let's hold off on the Justin Fields talk for a bit. I'm sorry. I'm more sick about talking about Justin Fields and Caleb Williams than anything. Look, there's something more important that's going to happen before this, right? And it's a little thing called free agency. Free agency is going to tell us a lot about the direction of our teams. Whether the Bears beat the Packers, beat whoever. Depending on what the Bears do in free agency is going to tell you a lot about where they're going with Fields. But the fact that the CEO and team president already told you what they're going to do with Fields, I think it's discussion over. And Rick, if you want to come on and proclaim how they're all stupid and you're smart, go for it, dude.
All right.
On that beat, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central on Hallis Hall, Chicago Bear News and Roku Hallis Hall Report. We have a lot of stuff to cover, obviously not Fields related. And then also tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central, the Frozen Tundra Network will be on its normal Packer channels plus Roku. Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Central, the Bears show, of course, Hallis Hall Report will be on all the same networks. Hallis Hall Report, Mike the Bear fan, Chicago Bear News, and Roku. And then Monday at 5 p.m., the Packer shows, of course, the Frozen Tundra will have its Roku show plus its normal. And look, hopefully we'll have more to talk about than Justin Fields next week. There was some other stuff that, I was wanting us to talk more about. We had agreed we were going to talk more about the Hard Knocks thing, and that would probably ended us about 20 minutes ago. But we'll have some good topics. Hopefully the teams will do something. I think one thing that we talked about a lot today that we need to watch is the Bakhtiari situation, because that not only does it affect you, but it kind of affects the Bears, right? In a way, we kind of want him gone from up there. But I think that's going to be a good situation, interesting situation to watch, and we'll see what they do in the offseason. So, Ken?
All right, I'm running the advertisement.
The Frozen Tundra Network. Like and share our page on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, we got Bill, the Packer fan, who's always been here with us. And now we have Packers News 24/7 for all of your Packers news, highlights, and updates. One of our newest pages, PackerBacker News. They have a morning show every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Go check them out. And as everybody knows, we have the Frozen Tundra Network podcast on the Northeast Streaming Sports Channel that is live every Saturday and Monday, 5 p.m. Central